Stop for a second. Imagine a world where you no longer have a stress from finances and everything runs like a well-oiled machine. In this video, that's exactly what I'm going to talk to you about. AI transformation, how it's evolving to help you master your money and create financial success, not only for you, but for your family, and create generational wealth. So with the help of innovative technology, like what I'm going to show you today, I've been able to streamline my budgeting, my savings, my investment strategies, and through my journey, I've discovered the power of leveraging AI and for financial success. So that includes chatbots to ask questions and gain knowledge. The possibilities are endless. So let's delve right into it. So if you see here on the left part of my screen, and this is the old way of doing things. So if you're still doing things in spreadsheets, you're still doing investment tracking the old way, you're manually putting data in, you're looking here and saying, hey, and by the way, this is a standard Google investment tracker from the Google suite. Again, nothing wrong with this, but this is sort of the old way of doing it where I'm looking here, I've got a stock and I'm going back through. This is nothing you can't do in Google Finance, Google Trends, which I'm gonna show you here in a minute. But this is very old school. So if you're doing something like this and you're doing manual tracking, or maybe you have a watch list of stocks and you wanna add more in and you're having to go in here, and some of this will load, but again, it's all manual. You're not doing anything very innovative. You have to manually go in here and do this. What if you mess up the stock symbol? It comes in here. Oh my God, look, I can't do it. I don't know, I got the wrong symbol. I don't know what I'm doing. Same thing over here. From a budgeting standpoint, a lot of us swipe credit cards, we swipe debit cards. We get the alerts that, hey, maybe I'm over my predetermined limit, whatever that may be per month. But if you're going through here and you're looking and saying, here's my starting balance, here's my ending balance, and you're manually putting this in, saying, okay, last month I spent $500 on food, or my planned, and let's say my actual was $450. I mean, this is just a lot of manual processes where AI automation can help bring you into the 21st century and out of these manual processes. And don't even get me started on manually writing things down in Notepad. As I move over here, there's a clear distinction between account minimums, deposits, and what you're able to achieve. So in this case, we see APY, and the reason I'm bringing this up is if you're manually scanning through and calling up or looking at individual banks to try to find, for instance, the best interest rate, you're gonna be very, very far behind. You do see some good interest rates here, but in terms of minimum, maximums, what's the minimum to invest, what's the checking account type, what's the institution account type, it's gonna be very difficult. Now, to counter that, if I go over here into ChatGPT and I say, what is the best way to automate my finances, create a plan. It's gonna go through, and we've just moved from manual over here on the left to automated over here on the right. And when it comes back in just a minute, it's gonna give me an actual plan. It's gonna give me a thought through process. And then I can take that and I can implement it. So I can start to move from what I did in old school back into new school. Now, in this case, it is telling me to set financial goals. It's probably gonna offer me some kind of incentive here to track and then to cut down on fees and expenses like that. But while that's working, let's move over here. So what I can do real quickly is, moving more into the automated fashion, is I can use Google Finance and I can start tracking stocks, ETFs, bonds. I can track different countries, futures, etc. So in this case, if I wanted to know, what are the biggest market indexes that I can follow, S&P 500, Dow, NASDAQ, I can start getting info on these, the S&P 500, and then I can follow it. So I can put it here into a basket. I can create a new watch list. I'm gonna say index compounders. I can do that, and then I can go back here and I can add something like if I go back into, let's see, market indexes, I can actually add these real quick and say, I'm gonna add this to index compounders, and then I'm gonna add this one over here to index compounders as well. So you're already seeing some automation open up, and then when I open these up, I can actually get a real quick look here. And now if I wanna do an investment, I can actually go in here and say, maybe I wanna look at Lilly. I can add this as well. I'm not gonna put that in there, but you're already seeing some of the ways I can automate some of this. So I'm not manually going in and picking stocks. I'm letting it show me, hey, what the trend is in the market. Now, if I look here, I can say, hey, what are the biggest losers? And what I can do from here is I can share this out, of course, but then I can start setting up alerts. And that's kind of phase one of when I'm investing, how do I automate? How do I cut down on time? How do I cut down on fees? And how do I make this as simple and as streamlined as possible? So real quick, let's go over here to the right and let's see what ChatGPT came up with. So set financial goals, track your income, create a budget. I'll get into that in a minute. Set up direct deposits. That's a no-brainer. Automate bill payments. Yeah. So for me, all my home expenses, so think gas, water, electricity, internet, all that's automated. Automatic savings. I'll talk about that, whether it's automatic deductions out of paychecks or reinvesting dividends. Investment automation. Again, that's more on the robo automatic savings route. Monitoring, so setting up alerts, and then staying educated. So we're going to talk about all this, and we already have, but let's move back over onto the left. So in this case, maybe I want to pick up some stock that is fallen down, so it's biggest losers. Maybe Intap. I don't even know what Intap is, but if I go down here, I can see that Intap over the last 5 days is down 15%. The last month it's down 15%. For the last 6 months, it's up 76%. So maybe this is a really good opportunity for me to buy, and maybe I follow it. I add it to a watch list of potential buys. Now, if I move over here into Google Trends is just a wealth of information. I would tell anyone who is a content creator in finance, maybe both, use Google Trends. It'll really help you out to see what's been trending, where, when, and then what kind of forward-facing momentum you can get from that. So let's just say I want to compare two ETFs here. I'm going to refresh this page. If I want to compare two ETFs, what I can do is I can actually see what's been trending and where. So these are two. This is a Vanguard ETF, and this is another ETF. They're both high dividend ETFs, but I can actually track and say, use more automation and say, okay, across the United States, over the past, let's say 2004 to now, under all categories, I'm not gonna go super select there, and I'm gonna say web search, but I could say YouTube search, Google Shopping, news. I'm gonna say news and see what it comes back with. Well, you're obviously seeing way back when, back in May of 2019, there was a lot of interest around VOO. So what does that tell us? Well, it tells us that more people are interested in it, more people are probably buying it, which means the drawdowns are going to be less, and there's going to be more capital to deploy. And then from here, I can actually go down and see the search interest for VOO. For some reason, VOO hits all over the country, and for some reason, HDIV only hits in California. Very interesting. So I can set up an alert, and then I can also share out from here. Now, if this is something that you're like, okay, this is great, this is good info, how do I automate more? So I've talked about Composer. The next thing I'm going to get into is Composer. So in order to automate more out of your life and make things easier, I'm going to go full screen here. It helps to understand what you're getting yourself into. So what do you want to do, and then how do you automate that? So the old world was, I write down a bunch of stocks, I go do a bunch of research, I don't really know that much about them, I don't know what they look like going forward, I can't back test, I can't backdate, what does that look like? So, it was kind of a guessing game. Now, with more AI and machine learning, I've talked about Composer before, this gives you a way to automate all that. So for instance, if you don't want to pick stocks, you don't want to be in the world of trying to adjust, what does the market do? There's an earthquake in Mozambique, there's supply chain issues in China, and there's oil issues in Venezuela. How does that affect my portfolio? That's where something like Composer can come in and really help you. So if you want to look over here, you can say, all right, I want to have a diverse portfolio. I'm going to go in here. And again, this is just one tool that I use to help my portfolio, again, from an automation standpoint. But let's say I want to diversify with a global trend. I can actually click in here and it'll open up and it'll show me, okay, so in this case, I'm going to own all these stocks down here. I'm going to own GLD, that's a gold share, Invesco QQQ Trust, Vanguard Developed Markets. I'm going to own all four of these ETFs, broken down evenly over the four different positions in my portfolio. And then it's going to go through here and tell me the Symphony has plenty of momentum, domestic equities, international bonds, commodities, etc. I'm not going to go through all this, but basically this is just another way to automate your finances and use AI to make those decisions, where behind the scenes in something like this, you have a bunch of Python code. It's looking at all the four different entities. Those will be those are just numbers in the background, and then it's going out and it's looking at things like this. So if we compare the global trend to SPY, the cumulative return has actually been down if I just bought SPY calls or if I just bought SPY. The index for the ETF, deviation, max, but it's basically in the background automating all this. And then I can actually do backdating and say, what does this look like over the last 3 years? It's going to go pull, it's going to show me, okay, SPY actually outperformed this. Maybe I don't want to invest in it. The great thing is I don't have to own individual stocks myself. I don't have to do any manual picking. I can continue to just let this thing run and recognize gains. There's other ways to do this. So something like Scintio, which I've used before, this actually takes in a lot of different data sources and gives you a great output. So think, instead of scouring 10Ks, financial reports, what's being said on investor calls, what's being tweeted, what's being on social media, investor sentiment, things like that, this actually helps bring all this together. So if you look here, it actually gives you a way to bring in, like I said, all these different buzzwords you may hear on a call, and then visualize that and then make important decisions from it. You're not only looking at, again, spreadsheets, balance sheets, 10Ks, what's going on the site, earnings calls, tweets from the CEO, the executive suite, what's that looking like? You're seeing all that in one. Now, when I open up their white paper here real quick, it'll show you that this thing, this actually is meant for individual investors. This is not meant for commercial investors or institutional investors, but you can actually go through and look at individual stocks. You can look at individual companies. You can get SEC filings, transcripts, really all the things that you wouldn't think of that actually do matter, because what a CEO does can move the stock up or down one way or the other, as we've seen before. Now, what are some practical use cases of this? What are some practical use cases of AI and machine learning in today's environment? Well, Stripe, if I go over to OpenAI, Stripe is actually using GPT-4 to help with knowledge transfer, bring up data much quicker, and then give access to their customers from a customer service standpoint much easier via chatbots and automated screening. So in this case, it's really understanding business sentiment, really scouring through and making sure, scan sites, and deliver summaries. So these actually outperform people. So instead of hand checking results, they can deploy a chatbot or an algorithm like this in order to make their experience better, which drives more revenue, which creates a better experience, as well as answering questions. Another one that I thought, especially in the finance industry, is what Morgan Stanley's doing. Morgan Stanley, obviously everyone knows what Morgan Stanley is, very well-known investment bank and investment managers. They're using ChatGPT-4 in terms of wealth management to bring together knowledge articles and concise articles for their wealth management team. It's basically their CIO says, think of it as having a CIO and every other analyst around the globe on every call, for every advisor, for every customer. That's a huge game changer. So in this case, if you look, they actually go through and say, hey, can my client set up a Morgan Stanley online account? The AI here is showing it how to do that, walk you through that. So it makes it much easier, and it cuts down on some of those less revenue generating activities. Now, one of the things I did like real quick that OpenAI did was help creating these commercial website or commercial videos, not necessarily from a finance perspective, but again, more automation, being able to create high quality commercials, video for TV, for YouTube, for things like that. Again, just more power of what AI is doing to increase your revenue, increase your throughput. Now, if you want to get really deep into what that can look like in terms of algorithmic trading, that's another thing I'll mention here, is you do have the ability to do algorithmic trading, and that's where something like Quant Connect, you've heard me also talk about Alpaca, which is the brokerage on the back end for Composer. Alpaca does some of this. I actually like Quant Connect a little better. I think their data sets are just easier to read. But in this case, if I want to do, here's a US equity trade, and I can actually go in here, view what's going on in here. Again, more algorithmic trading where I'm not having to sit here and manually buy stock. I can actually go in here, I can back test, I can see the turnover rate, I can see the holdings that are down here. There's 5, unrealized or realized gain or loss. And then look at other strategies. So if you really want to get deep in there from an algorithmic standpoint, using machine learning, it's there. I'll link this down below as well. And finally, what are some more common sense ways to do budgeting? So I've talked about Mint before on my channel. Mint is a great way to do budgeting. So we're going to move away from the algorithmic trading to more of the day-to-day stuff. Mint is a great way to do budgeting. So instead of, if I go back here, monthly budget, wrong, new way, right. So there's nothing wrong with, there's nothing wrong with doing something like a monthly budget here, but automating it, pulling in your credit card information, your debit card information, your direct deposit, and then telling you, again, right here, this is all automated. So here's my monthly budget. I've spent $762 of $500. Instead of me having to manually code that in over here, I have it all at my fingertips. I can also check for subscriptions. This is just another way that AI is helping out. And finally, when I go back into something like Betterment, Wealthfront, you can actually see what Betterment is able to do. So in this case, and this is pretty common across some of these other robo-advisors, this is one of my smaller accounts. but it does have the ability to show, and I'm only looking at all time, and I'm only looking here at dividend reinvestment and tax loss harvesting, but those are things that are automatic. Those are things I set and forget. Just another way, the automation, the AI, the machine learning is going in and saying dividend reinvestment is pretty easy. If I get a dividend in the quarter, I just reinvest it back into the fund. But if I go down here to tax loss harvesting, it's actually automatically, without me having to do anything, which for those of you that do manual tax loss harvesting, you'll know it's a pain in the butt. Tax loss harvesting here is automatic. It sells out of my negative positions to buy things that are positive, thus reducing my tax bill, making me very happy. So I hope you enjoyed this. This was a great overview. I'm going to do an entire series on probably each individual app, whether it's Alpaca, whether it's Quant Connect, whether it's Composer, which I've already done. Comment down below. Let me know what you want to see from an AI ML standpoint when it comes to finance. I'd be happy to do videos that people are interested in, but I really think this is going to be a big thing going forward. It has been. It's going to continue to be. I've been a customer of Betterment for the last 7 years, and I've been working with Composer over the last 12 months. So let me know in the comments section, and don't forget to design your financial freedom. Take care. Bye-bye.